I don't know what's going on.
Hey, have you checked YouTube today?
Ah!
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jesus, you scared me. I was just reading this book, which is truly evil.
Are you really reading that, or are you pretending?
I read it like 4 years ago, and I just needed a way to start this video. Why? What's going on? What's happening?
Well, your movie sucks. Tagged you in his childhood trauma video.
What?
I watched it on my lunch break.
Hi there, I'm famous now. Big internet celebrity. I'm so famous.
Oh god. No, please, no.
What do I have to do? It's like a movie that messed me up when I was a child? Okay. Well, shit.
Yep, real simple.
Tell you a secret.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about movies. Part 1, Childhood Trauma. Hey there, if you're new here, my name is Mason. I run the Nick Spheres channel, and I am a literal bag of trash. Usually I talk about movies, but today I just really didn't want to do that because I just worked on 5 movies, and if I talk about one more, I might actually die. So I guess I'm expanding on the prompt of this video to conclude books and other media because I really want to talk about scary stories to tell in the dark. I mean, you want to talk about something that probably ruined my psychology as a child? This is probably it. Yeah, this is definitely it. Okay, that's enough. Now, for some of you out there, the very mention of that title brings back painful memories of going to sleep, certain that you were going to die. Further than that, something surreal and nightmarish was going to happen to you or your loved ones, then you were going to die. That's the sort of narrative that these books pushed, or at least they did to me. There's this story titled Oh Susanna, where a girl keeps hearing her name, so she gets up to see if it's her friend, and her friend's been decapitated. So that happens.
Dear God.
And if you think that's surprising, you should see the accompanying image. Inside, I am completely dead. So in short, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was a series of 3 books of short stories based on folklore and urban legends written or adapted by Alvin Schwartz and illustrated by Stephen Gammell throughout the 80s and 90s.
What's the big deal with these scary stories, though? People tell scary stories all the time.
Well, it wasn't really the stories as much as it was like the art, but I guess, it is the stories too, to an extent. When I was younger, they had this thing in Texas called the Scholastic Book Fair. Basically, it was the greatest day ever because much like a carnival, it showed up completely unannounced and saved us from our bleak, miserable existence. Going to school in America post-Columbine and 9/11 was truly the biggest nightmare. Anyway, this is where I discovered these pieces of nightmare fuel and how they changed my life in a sort of big way. As a kid, I liked scary stories and being scared just like any child. It was dangerous and exciting, and it never felt real, but it was a fun simulation of real-life terror. Then I found these books. I remember seeing the cover, and it immediately made me uncomfortable because I had never seen anything like that before. What is happening on this cover? What is this? What is this? What is this? It wasn't just scary for child me, it was hard to look at for more than a few seconds because it honestly unnerved me to a dysfunctional level. This sort of imagery was something that was all too realistic, uncompromising, and all too uncanny. One could easily do a long-winded analysis on the compositional elements at play in Stephen Gammell's artistic work, but who has the time? The answer is I do, because I'm going to do that later in the video. And I haven't even gotten to the stories yet. Point is, at the Scholastic Book Fair, these suckers were $3 a piece, and I took them all home and completely just ruined my life. I read them over and over. I got to a point where certain images in the book would unnerve me so much that just the concept of seeing them accidentally or otherwise led me to skip pages and open the book carefully as to not see them. Specifically this image. I don't know why this one was so troubling to me, but yeah, it just was. Maybe it's that uncanny nature of the thing's face. Like, where's his nose? Why doesn't he have a nose? Where did it go? What did he never have one? What is this? But when you read the stories in combination with these images, it gives you this really strange but vivid experience that I think deserves some further analysis. And hey, maybe by explaining all these, I'll finally dig up all those old demons that I have living inside me.
Or maybe they'll live inside you forever.
Oh God, maybe you're right. Part 2. Narrative and image. To try and put into words how these stories really work is a bit difficult because you have to, 1, be a little baby child, and 2, actually experience this firsthand. But here goes nothing. Upon rereading these books in the last couple of weeks in preparation for this video, I discovered that many of the stories operate on the exact same narrative level. Basically, there's a setup that's simple but economic. The story then plays with your expectations, suspense, relief, and so on. And then it usually has some sort of boo ending. And by boo ending, I mean one that tries to scare you or creep you out even to an arbitrary and totally narratively unsatisfying level. If one were just reading these stories on their own as an adult, they might not be particularly effective, although they do tend to cover taboo subjects that as a kid you either didn't know existed or were terrified to even think about. Cannibalism, confronting one's own death or the death of a loved one, revenge, envy, violence, murder, even the concept of your own body rotting cold and alone.
Good God.
You really couldn't find anything that was more purely disturbing for like the childhood demographic, except for, maybe Gooby. So from all this information, we can sort of gather that the books contain simple stories with challenging ideas and truly shocking imagery. And that's where the images work their way in. The artwork by Stephen Gammell is often cited as being like some of the most disturbing artwork for like a children's book ever, and I pretty much agree, but solely on just how the book uses that artwork. The images build a world in which all these horrible, terrible things are relatively common and capture the general feeling one gets from experiencing them. This allows your imagination to go way further than any of the actual stories do. It's often said that 20% of the overall art does 80% of the emotional groundwork. Here, they just throw like a 2-page long story with one image and, oh God, just what is that? Why does it have a human foot? What is happening here? And every story gets an accompanying image that kind of just spices things up a little bit or, provokes us into that world. And I think upon visual analysis, you can really start to understand what the narrative of the story is really kind of doing in tandem with the images.
Do you have any examples to show us?
Part 3. Some examples. The Thing. So The Thing is the perfect example of a simple story with a challenging implication for children. Basic gist is there's 2 boys who are in the middle of a field at night and they see a rotting person running around in the field and it sort of like scratches one of the boys or something like that. The boy then gets super sick and starts to physically rot away. He can't be helped and his condition gets worse. Then right before he dies, his friend comes in and sees him and turns out he looks exactly like the thing that they saw in the field. The story itself is short and creepy on its own, sort of, but the image enhances the story insofar as we start to imagine the condition itself and those hidden details. I mean, a human rotting is an alien image to a child. Until they associate it with this image, you could criticize the story for being so simplistic and not actually elaborating on any detail, but the image already did that, so why describe it? This image says everything the story couldn't, and maybe could never. Harold. 2 ranchers make a scarecrow based on someone they hate, then they humiliate it and it comes to life and it's implied that it skins one of them. Ages 8 and up.
No God.
There's no God. This is a story that has one hell of an ending where the image acts as a way to buy into the visceral nature of the ending. I mean, look at that shit. Can you imagine it murdering someone violently? I can. Because that's what's implied by the story, and the image just kind of acts as a guide to just take you right in that direction. Almost all of the images in the book are placed right at the beginning of the stories. Reason being, they establish the world of the story and you can imagine the entire story looking like this in your mind, and it allows you to create your own horror out of that concept. However, when the structure of the book deviates from this formula, it arrives at its most effective use of the illustration. The haunted house. This story is legitimately pretty good, and it has like one of the best scares of the entire book series. A preacher goes to a local haunted house to exorcise the spirits or whatever, and a ghost keeps trying to get in the room he's sitting in. So it kind of plays on that inner suspense a little bit, and, everything's fine, and then, you turn the page, and, oh God. Oh, Jesus.
Holy shit, you said these books are for children?
Yeah, they're for children. This moment is one of the most powerful moments in the entire book series. It gives you a basic impression of what's going on, and your suspense is on high. You want to know what comes next, and when you turn the page, it does so many things at once. It scares the hell out of you, then gives you all the information about what the nature of the ghost is, and you immediately connect with the character in the story because you experience the same thing the main character does in this moment.
And I mean, further than that, it's just kind of like, it's a good usage of the medium of the children's book, because like, it makes you afraid to turn the page because you don't know exactly what you're going to see next. And I think that's really powerful.
As far as the way the story ends, it upends our fear for the character that we're shown on this page, then goes on to tell us that she's a tragic character that needs help. The preacher then helps her, and bada bango, the story's over. Now you can go hide somewhere and recover. Part 4, the value of these stories. Oh my god, I've been talking so much about this children's book. I think Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark has a lot more value to us now than maybe when we were kids. These stories sort of molded us in our creative imaginations at a young age. It flexes our mind muscles. We gain an ability to picture the things we read, which has led to a lot more creative horror in general because of this childhood ability.
I know that may seem like high praise for something that, you know, like we purely remember because it kind of disturbed us as children, but I do think that it has some utility kind of beyond that.
Like what?
I mean, we could talk all day on just like how the visual design aspects kind of work on us as an audience. Let's do that. Why not?
Just looking at like one of the drawings, you can get a sense for the world being created here. I mean, let's look at this horrifying image from a haunted house. We have a person with extreme physical rot, and it's all implied by contrasting light and shade. A nose is sort of implied, but isn't really a nose here. Why does no one have a nose in this universe? What is this guy's deal with noses? Point is, by removing the comforts of basic features, we get into this uncanny area where we know this is supposed to look human, but it doesn't at all. No eyes, nose, real lips, broken hair, but we can't really tell where skin begins and ends.
This is all so heavily dreamlike. It takes away the modern comfortabilities of someone's face in order to make them startlingly obscure to look at.
But the caveat to this is how Stephen Gamble does this to the physical world as well. I mentioned that O Susanna image earlier. This is a new world altogether that just kind of screams romanticism, which is sort of an art movement dedicated to inspiration and subjectivity. The world of this image is inspired by the horror the character experiences. It sends her into this new world where nothing is real. But you'll notice that this is sort of a through line in all of these images.
Another example is the church, which is probably my personal favorite of Gamble's works.
This image not only shows us a crooked and broken subjective world cascaded in shadow with all the highlight coming from the sky, but it also shows us the existential undercurrent by showing the world underneath the earth, nothingness that the land just sort of falls into. It's a graveyard where people are buried and fall into pure white blank space.
I remind you that this is a children's book and it's presenting startling concepts that aren't just scary, but they downright confuse the very worlds around us and make us think about them differently.
When I was a kid, I wondered if the world under the ground was actually like this. Now that I've grown up, kinda, I realized that this implication is just as scary to an adult, if not more, because we're approaching death like so fast.
How could you possibly make even this depressing?
I don't know, I have some really big problems. Probably caused by these goddamn books.
These books were so successful and are still well remembered and cherished to this day. And the first book was published in 1981. I think the reason they remain so relevant is for its bite-sized ideas that may, in a way, be narratively unsatisfying or underdeveloped or without real stakes or any sort of conclusion, but they bring up a lot of topics that they only do so much with. You can read these now and, in part with the visual design, find your own way of navigating the story in a way that sort of better suits you. Folklore is something that is almost constantly changed throughout time. The wonderful thing is that there are hundreds of incarnations of all the stories. They keep changing based on who's telling them. And if you're interested in telling stories, particularly horror stories, these books are something worth studying for how they go about approaching telling these stories with word and image. I mean, you can adapt them in your own way and see how simply the stories operate and see how important the imagery is and where it's placed. This has informed so many stories that I've written, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. So maybe I'm messed up now or whatever, but because I read these over and over and over and continue to read them to this day, I feel like I've kind of found a better storyteller inside myself.
Yeah, and now I'm an anxiety-ridden psychopath, so, you know, that's a plus also.
And I am a robot.
What does that have to do with anything at all ever. Ever.
Point is, you don't have to like the stories or how they're told. You just need to understand how they operate to know what you want to do with your own stories. Part 5. Confronting your fears.
There was a point when, as a child, I stopped being scared of these books and I tried to understand them.
I remember going into the library of my school and looking through every page of each of these books and just stared at the images. I went through each page and stared intently at them until I started to see the humor in it all. Each image was just so strange and almost comically horrifying to child me that I started to laugh. I started to think about the kind of person that would put a book like this together. The kind of person that would put some of the scariest images ever drawn into a book for children to challenge them with them. To deliver on the promise that so many children's books and later horror movies never really could. They unnerved us in a way that was almost indescribable. I started to consider the kind of person who would take such joy in putting together such a compilation of images, and I realized in a certain way that person was a lot like me.
Well, this was weird.
Yeah, maybe I should just stick to screaming about movies.
But what movies are even worth talking about anymore?
Well, there is this one.
Matthew McConaughey of A Time to Kill. Renee Zellweger of Jerry Maguire.
Are you having fun yet?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Next Generation. If looks could kill, he wouldn't need a chainsaw.
Oh, God. No.
Oh, yes.
If you don't subscribe, I will kill you.
Oh geez, sorry about that. Anyway, thanks for watching, you beautiful psychopath. If you enjoyed this video, perhaps hit the subscribe button and the like button. Whoa, you did it! Oh my god. Special thanks to YMS for tagging me in this. It made for a very therapeutic experience. I guess I'd better tag someone. Okay, Peyton Brock Productions and Ben Big. Good luck, my boys! If you love the Dark Lord's content, consider supporting me on Patreon. I'd like to thank contributors Tyson, Travis Morris, Sarah Kelm, Ryan Creasy, Carmelita Jalapa, Zach Taylor, The Uncommon Dab, Zachary King, Captain Jack Brackle, Abysme, S. Delancey, Oliver Bulmer, Paul Holiday, and all of my other patrons that support what I do. Thank you dearly, you beautiful freaks.